Well, good afternoon and welcome to San Angelo Live. We are here for our first interview after the first of the year, and we are at the political desk. We're talking with Lane Carter. Lane is running for Tom Green County Judge in the Republican primary.
Yes,
That'll be the March 1st election coming up, and we got through the holidays, and we're back on the campaign trail.
Back on it.
Lane, welcome. Glad to have you
Pleasure
here.
to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
We try to start out these interviews with just getting to know who you are.
Okay.
I mean, I know who you are,
Yes.
but we need to share that information. So you served on the San Angelo City Council.
I did 5.5 years.
And that's so let's talk about your service and education family. Who's Lane Carter?
Okay, well, let me start off. I am a Tom Green County native, 34 years, born and raised.
All right.
I never moved off. I went to ASU after graduating from Central High School in 2006.
Okay.
Gained my bachelor's in biology 2010. Went on to the second degree nursing program in 2010 to 2012. Graduated with my RN in 2011.
Okay.
I had the ambitions of going to medical school, so that's why I went through the biology degree, which was what an experience. Had a change of heart. I wanted to have more of a home life here in San Angelo.
Okay.
Family was a big thing for me with my grandparents still here, and at the end of their life, I would have missed a lot. So I'm glad I stayed here.
Okay.
Second degree nursing program. It was a pretty intense program. Gained another bachelor's in a year and a half, essentially. Met my wife during that stint of it, and we were married in 2013. And we have two wonderful boys now. One is 5.5, and one is 2 as of today.
Oh, wow.
So happy birthday to my youngest. Yes.
Yeah.
Through college and high school, I ran a lawn service. I started out young. I was very business-minded, very young. 14 years of age, started it out to where it was my parents driving me to the locations until I could get my driver's license in a truck and a trailer. Gained the clientele that way. Once I was 16, got the truck, got the trailer, grew it along with working at the Town and Country corporate office.
Okay.
Started out mopping and sweeping the floors, maintenance. Grew into the accounting roles. I went to accounts receivable with the Fuel MasterCards, balancing tickets.
Okay.
And then on to gasoline accounting, where I was in charge of managing and balancing the Chevron credit cards. Through those years, it taught me a lot of accounting, balancing. The managers did not like me because I made them go find 1 cent, because it was coming down to that time where if it didn't balance 0 to 0, it didn't make sense.
Right.
A lot of times it was typos. Once Town and Country sold, I started investing into my real estate career.
Okay.
I grew up remodeling rent houses with my parents, and bought my own, started flipping, buying more, flipping, and building that business up. This was after the lawn service and after the sale of Town and Country. I had that all the way through the nursing career. But I worked in the community ER to start off as a nurse.
Okay.
Worked there for a few years and then went on to surgery at Shannon Medical Center. We were downtown for a year and a half, and then I went to the surgery center. I loved what I do. A lot of people ask me, do I miss it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I miss the patients. I miss the workload. But 2016, I also had another ambition, and I ran for the San Angelo City Council. I was able to outrun the incumbent for SMD 5, knocking door to door. And that was such an experience, going and meeting everybody, shaking hands, talking about issues. So that was the first time that I really got into the political realm.
Okay.
Did not know I would have any ambition of wanting to get into politics until, it happens to you. And once you grow older and you start keeping up with the topics, and there was a few concerns that I really did not agree with the way that the city was being ran. So it's been a pleasure to serve the last 5.5 years, and thank everybody for that opportunity. So that's me in a nutshell for those that don't know me.
Okay. And that last 5.5 years on the council, it's been an eventful
It has.
5.5 years.
It
Y'all have made some major decisions, infrastructure being one of them.
Absolutely.
I'm reminded every day, twice a day, when I go to the low water crossing on the Red Arroyo on Southwest Boulevard,
yes.
that's now open 2 lanes, and that's been several months in the making. But that's part of an $80 million 10-year
Yeah.
process that started with MLK and Bell Street.
Right. MLK, Bell Street, explaining the processes of why these streets were selected in that order. It all depended on how bad they were. Some were worse off down below that you could not see.
Yeah.
So that kind of deemed it necessary. Let's tackle these first, and also along with what funding we had available at the time. If grants were involved, sometimes it threw that into it where we can tackle this little portion of it instead of everybody asks, well, why is Bell Street not happening? Well, this is why.
Yeah.
It's in the works. Same thing for College Hills. College Hills, thankfully, is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the design phase. We're working through the drainage issues. And so water issues, street issues, infrastructure, civil servants, our fire and police departments in San Angelo, and economic development. That's why I ran for city council. And that's almost the same reason I'm running for Tom Green County Judge.
All right, let's get into the county judge part of it. The county judge is basically the CEO of the county.
Correct.
He has to juggle a budget for 26 elected officials and other department heads, and it's a challenging position.
It is.
You've been attending those meetings, and of course been around county government for quite a while. Where do you see the commissioner's court, and this is important about this election, the personality on the court's going to change.
Correct.
Because the incumbent county judge is not going to be there. And there's a possibility that there'll be a change at the commissioner on Precinct 4, so that would be 2 of the 5 members that would be new, and it would be an entirely new court.
Right.
So voters will have the opportunity to sort of steer the ship in that direction with who they elect.
Right.
So what, with the county judge, Tom Green County Judge ship right now, what are the issues facing the county, and particularly the county judge?
So like you mentioned, budget, number one job title for the county judge. We now have issues in county roads, drainage. We have it all over the county. Criminal justice system that pulls away from the budget tremendously. Yeah. Everything coming down from the state level, they kind of decipher how we can do it. Let's start with the 3.5% cap on our tax rate. That plays a lot in how we can manage how to divvy up those funds. Everybody wants a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Having someone in that leadership role is going to determine how well that budget is going to be ran.
Okay.
So the issues that I see, similar to what we saw at the city council, you have retention and pay issues.
Yeah.
Starting out with, let's say, jailers, huge retention issue. Sheriff's deputies, huge retention issues.
Yeah.
Same thing what we saw for our fire and police department in San Angelo. So I can relate to that tremendously. We see those steps. We see where they're comparing to, who they're comparing with, what other sister cities, if you will. That term is used throughout a lot of different avenues.
Right.
So the sister cities we will lose to, we'll always compete with. So how do we sell San Angelo? How do we get increased from the $17.22 that a jailer will start off?
Right.
And make it a position that they really love and really want to do.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a servant's heart just as much as it is in politics. You have to want to be there. Yeah. Because that's a rough job.
Yeah, that's especially true with the jailers. Absolutely.
Especially. Because it doesn't stop when you get off at work. It goes home. You have a spouse that is waiting for you to come home, and if something bad happens at the jail, they may not like your job title at that moment. So, budget, criminal justice. I grew up. I use this term. I grew up in the criminal justice system, but I was on the good side. My father was he is the current chief of juvenile probation up in Lubbock County.
Okay.
And he has worked with juvenile probation all of his life, almost all of my life as well. So I grew up seeing what's happening, knowing the legislation, seeing what is affected at the state level, how it's affecting the committee hearings, the senators, the representatives coming together, passing bills, coming down, which will affect counties, city budgets, all the way down. How do we manage those bills? Let's take Senate Bill 41, I believe it is.
Okay.
That was just passed, and it's small, but it's just an example of how that affects county budgets. It takes away court fees.
Okay.
So it's one of those underfunded mandates.
Right.
So county judge is going to have to know how to deal with that, how to, take and give, because every time on the budget cycle, everybody's going to come to you, and you're going to prepare it. It's going to be voted on. You're the deciding factor if there's a tie at the commissioner's court level.
Okay.
So.
There are, in the criminal justice system, which is busting at the seams, and it's not just here.
Right.
They're struggling with having enough courtroom space and enough people to do the job. And the court has recently approved two things. We have a new magistrate judge, and we also have in the works, it's coming along, is the public defender's office.
Correct.
And his staff. Those things are coming along. So what is your perspective on those two?
I think it's a wonderful item that we have. For one thing, the public defender's office is going to save the county budget about $2 million.
Yep.
That's also going to expedite some of the court cases coming through, take the burden off the courts that way, free up our jail. We have a jail that we just toured a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Built for 542 inmates. We currently have about 480 to 490 housed, 13 from out of the county, and also other counties have about 11 of ours. So if people are wondering why we have 11 here but 13 from outside, it just comes down to cost. It's harder to bring them back and forth because you never know what the crime level is going to do.
Right.
When inmates get locked up after they're booked, you don't know how long they're going to be there. Sentencing, juries waiting on that. COVID had a lot of impact on that. Yeah,
that's the criminal docket. Just talking to the judges and the attorneys, the criminal docket slowed to a crawl when we went through these lockdowns, the pandemic lockdowns, and they're. I think the district judges have the ability to, at least in a limited capacity, have jury trials and to get that docket moving again. I think once it's freed up, I think the district judges have done an outstanding job trying to get that docket cleared up. I think that's right, and the magistrate judge can do plea hearings. Right. So maybe those things are in the works to make it to make the process go smoother. It all matters on who's going to take the burden. Yeah. We're all in the same boat, and we have to take care of the issues. And those issues they seem big now because they're current in our memories. But over the course of the next 4 years, in this business, we know, and you as a city council member would know that there are going to be more tornadoes and snowstorms and droughts. And those types of things will affect the county. Right. And so the judge is also the chief emergency manager. Correct. For the county. So let's speak to that kind of leadership. Okay. Let me touch on one more thing on budget. All right. So Tom Green County, we have about $7.5 billion worth of assets that were taxed. Property value, yeah. Property value. How do we increase that? We all have to deal with inflation.
We have it on our households.
Right.
We see it at our grocery stores. The county budget and the city budgets, town budgets also have to deal with that as well.
Yeah.
So the 0.54% of the 100 valuation divvies up to about $35 million worth of tax base
Okay.
for operation and maintenance. The rest are going towards debt service. We have about $59 million worth of debt service. A lot of that is the jail.
Right.
A very low number of that is going elsewhere. So the jail is taken up. I think we're in a good situation where we are on our debt service.
Yeah.
But economic development, like I said, is what one reason I ran for city council, and another reason I'm running for Tom Green County Judge.
Okay.
Economic development is huge. Our 3.5% cap that we have on our tax rate, plus inflation, plus our taxable values. Economic development will only bring in, because what do we have? You can name it. We have two things coming. That's going to be huge for Tom Green County in this area. Do you know what they are? Interstate 14.
Oh, okay.
And
the
I-27.
interstates. Yeah.
How do we prepare as a community, Tom Green County and the outlying areas? How do we prepare now for those economic impacts that we're going to have?
Okay.
I was able to serve up for I-27 Ports to Plains.
Okay.
I was secondary along with the mayor.
Yeah.
For that, of course, the mayor will be primary. But in 2016, I was able to go up to Washington, D.C. and meet with legislators
Okay.
to talk about the interstate Ports to Plains, how it's going to connect all the way from Alberta to Laredo, Alberta, Canada to Laredo, Texas. Huge. Because we're an oasis out here. We're all alone with Midland and a couple other towns. I-35 takes, in east, that corridor takes a lot of that burden.
Right.
And that's why a lot of the deciding factors have to relate at the state level that will benefit out there. Well, how do we benefit San Angelo and Tom Green County, Christoval, Wall? Those two towns, Grape Creek, the outlying Miles area, Carlsbad and Water Valley. Those are all areas that are going to be affected by those two issues coming through. How do we make the best of it, and how do we prepare for it? We've got to prepare now. We have to have someone in that position with the leadership skills and has dealt with it to see the impact that it will have.
Okay.
So looking on into the emergency management, you are the key role in emergency management for the county. Tornadoes, snowpocalypse, two issues that we saw in the last 3 years. When Bradford area got hit by the tornado,
Yeah.
I can say that. How are you affected by that? How the constituents that are over there, how did they get help? It's boots on the ground. You can set up a shop, but if you're not going and helping each individual person, and I'll use this time to say that Michael Looney and I from the chamber, we were with our chainsaws cutting limbs up, getting it out of the roads, helping those constituents out because they were down trees on power lines. A perfect time to come together and help everybody out.
Okay.
Snowmageddon.
Yeah.
During that time, we were, as a city, because I was on council at that time, we were hit with the pollen contamination right before that. So that was a double whammy. Pollen contamination, shut down the water system, boil notices, and then we started trickling back from the southwest side of town and opening up. The snow hit, the freeze hit. It shut down the water plant. It froze pipes. We had issues of water loss, but that we some unaccounted for, and you have issues like dialysis centers, crucial medical centers that need to be up and running. Everything that's crucial for water. I was in contact with a couple people that I knew at dialysis centers trying to get them water because they were down to the triage level.
Oh, wow.
Who was going to live, who was going to die. And that part's crucial. That part's crucial. They needed the water. How are they going to get the water? Calling the avenues that I knew to to get shipments, bottles of water. It did not have to be quote unquote sterile.
Right.
Their RO systems through their dialysis machines will do the function that it needs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When I talked with Allison Struby at the water department, I was probably calling her as long as with everybody else at the time, trying to find out what did she need.
Okay.
And at one point she said, we're at 2.5 million gallons lost, and we're trying to figure out where that is. And she didn't know. We couldn't figure it out. So she said, we're thinking about thermal imaging. So I called Drew Darby, and I asked him, I said, Drew, what can we do? What can we do from higher up? I know you're working on it. Everybody's fielding phone calls.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the drone. Any kind of avenue, what could we do to find that 2.5? Because we were thinking it might have been leaking up underneath the ice. Okay. Thermal imaging could find out where that might be to save it, because the biggest thing was pressurizing those tanks. Yeah. We were at such a loss that we could not pressurize. Everybody was wanting to shower. Everybody was wanting to cook. Yeah. So we couldn't pressurize the high plains. Everybody down the low plains were starting to shower, and the bluffs in Southland, it was dependent on the lower plains. Yeah. The Lakeview Plains, the Abilene Street tower. So it's emergency management was during those times was different. Definitely a learning curve that it was enjoyable, because I was able to help out whoever was calling. Okay. Hey, I need this, I need that. Yeah. And facilitating those needs. How to declare disasters will be number one for this position. So having someone in that key role that has dealt with it, has known the avenues, is going to be crucial. Okay, that's right.
We could talk about issues all day long in the county, I love it. It'd be a great conversation, and we'd probably solve a lot of issues. But we are time constrained here, so this is the point where I get to say, you've got a very large audience here. There are 69,000 registered voters, maybe more than that, in Tom Green County that'll be deciding who wins the Republican primary for county judge. We've got the largest audience in any local media here. So this is your chance to look them in the eye and tell them whatever you want to tell them. Okay. There are no gotcha questions from me. I'm backing you into a corner or anything. This is an open mic where you get to look directly at the voter and say, there are 4 guys here. I want you to vote for me. Okay. So this is there's no time limit. Just this is for you.
Okay. I'll go back and forth between the camera and you if that's okay. Tom Green County, thank you for this opportunity. I am Lane Carter. I have served on the San Angelo City Council for 5.5 years. I have a servant's heart. I have a leadership heart. I've enjoyed being in both of those positions. I asked for your vote March 1st for the Tom Green County Judge in the primaries. Early voting, I believe, is the last 2 weeks, starting February 14th. Is that correct?
That's right.
For that position. Like I said, I have a servant's heart. I loved what I do through politics in San Angelo, and I'm looking for to help out on a broader spectrum. Okay. When I met with the current Steve Floyd, current Tom Green County Judge, and he told me, quote, 2 years ago that in 3 years he would be kicking himself out on the streets because he's retiring. I thought to myself, someone's going to need to fill that position that has a servant's heart and strong leadership skills, and I believe I have those. I have extensive budget through the city of San Angelo. Yep. We've had $70 million general fund, and how to divvy up those funds. Like I said, everybody wants a part of that pie. I've had experience with the budget. I've had experience with emergency management. I've had experience with civil service, and I look to apply that on a higher level. I believe I can do that. Okay. And I look forward to it. I also look forward to working with our higher elected officials. I've done that in the past with connections through the criminal justice system, like I said, through my father. I've seen the legislation. I've enacted with the legislation. And knowing how to do that, knowing the processes that are only going to help Tom Green County by standing up and saying, we're on our own out here. I-35 makes a lot of decisions. And I say I-35 because everything east of I-35, you have San Antonio and Dallas, Austin, Houston.
Yep.
A lot of legislation is happening out there. We are a hub out here that has fuel, food, and fiber. Agriculture is huge. That is our livelihood. How are we going to manage that? How are we going to sustain that? And how are we going to prepare for the future? Prep for that, because we have the interstates coming through. Knowing now how to do that, knowing how to legislate for it, and how to prepare us to not crumble, but to thrive. Economic development is only going to help the constituents out. So I ask for your vote. I thank you for your vote and your support, and I look forward to serving as Tom Green County Judge.
All right. Thanks, Lane. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
We've got a couple of months, basically, until the election day. Election day is March 1st. That is for the Republican and Democrat primaries in the state of Texas. And in Tom Green County, there are Republican candidates only for this go-round. There will be a Democrat ballot, but it will be for statewide offices. As you mentioned, early voting begins mid-February. Runs for 2 weeks, and then election day is March 1st.
Right.
And the bonus for races like this, where there's 4 members and even Commissioner Precinct 4, there's 6 people running, there's a possibility of a runoff.
Right.
And that runoff for this primary would be May 24th, and there'll be an early voting period there. And because it is because there are no Democrats in the race, then the winner of that GOP primary or runoff would be the nominee for the general election in November, on November 1st. Under normal circumstances, you would be the winner and you would be sworn in on the January 1st of 2023. We do have the possibility that Gary Jenkins is an independent candidate, and he's got to jump through some hoops and get some paperwork done in June to get on the ballot in November. So we'll see how that works out. Again, we're trying to talk to every candidate. There are some opportunities for the public to come see you guys. The first that comes to mind is the 13th, which is the Concho Valley Republican Women are holding a debate-like forum in the SUG room at the Stevens Central Library on January 13th at 6 p.m. And as far as we know, all the county judge candidates will be there, and it'll be moderated by Dr. Clifton Jones of Angelo State University. And then there are the San Angelo Tea Party, the San Angelo Republican Women, and the Pachyderm Club and the Concho Valley Republican Women will have other opportunities over this next 60 days for y'all to showcase yourselves to voters. But until then, for San Angelo Live, Lane, thanks again for coming in.
Having me.
And for San Angelo Live, I'm Yantis Green.